Welcome to Sykes, the Bottom Line Pharmacy Podcast, your regular dose of pharmacy CPA advice to fuel your bottom line, featuring pharmacists, key vendors, and other innovators.
Your checks, yes, you can call me, cause we the best, Sykes Company. We the best, Sykes Company. Your accounting is a mess, there's no need for you to stress. Go online and request from the best. We the best, Sykes Company. We the best, Sykes Company. Yes.
We got our own Mr. Tyler Davis joining us today, Bonnie, on the podcast.
We do. Who is Tyler Davis?
Tyler
That's a
Davis
very interesting question.
is our people operations leader here at Sykes Company.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to be on the podcast for a while now.
Tyler, I had no idea you had a passion for podcasts.
Yeah, I used to run my own podcast, so I was like, I think this would be great if we could,
I need this information.
What topic or what was your podcast about?
It was basically just like a trending podcast, like talk about like topics that are happening in the news or the world, and honestly, it was a lot of banter. But sometimes it would get deep, especially depending on like who I had on or things of that nature. It was hosted by me and a couple of friends, and we were talking about our lives, our days, kind of just really a venting sesh, if anything.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's important for the people of operations. You got to vent. You got to get it off your chest, right? I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Now that makes me a little nervous that Tyler has podcast experience.
Why does that make you nervous?
I mean, because he may listen to our podcast and have a lot of feedback he may want to give us.
Y'all's podcast is great, especially the subject matter. I mean, you guys are so scripted to the point where, like, you actually, the plans that you have in place, the podcast that I was doing, we winged it a lot.
Are you serious right now?
What we were doing firsthand, and then
Tyler,
run with it.
Did you just?
You must not be a serious fan of our podcast, because it is well known that we wing the heck out of this thing.
It seems so structured. From
really?
We pull that off, Bonnie. I don't know how we do it.
Usually I roll in with like 2 minutes to go, and then we're like, what are we talking about today?
Oh, well.
Bonnie rolls in.
I'm legit here and stuff that we're talking. And I was like...
I normally roll in. I usually am pretty nice. If I know Scotty's going to be in the office, I'll bring him his iced coffee just to be nice. So he'll be nice to me on the podcast.
With heavy cream.
Not heavy. Well,
and I have a little bit of lactose intolerance. So if you ever see me on a podcast and have to run out of here,
it hasn't happened
Bonnie
yet,
got
but
me the
that's
heavy
what
cream.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Oh, so you're just poisoning Scotty.
Yeah, I'm trying to add some.
Here it is. I've drank it all too. So.
Well, it's the only time I know for sure he'll be here. So.
It's the only time that actually I'd never know when you're going to be here.
I'm a true hybrid worker.
I'm here most of the time.
Really?
Yes, I am.
I'll
get here between 8 and 9. Get the kids all ready and make sure all that's straight, and then I'm heading over here because I'm not working at the house with a newborn baby.
You get a lot going on at the house, right?
There is. There is.
Very funny. Well, Tyler, like we said, is head of our people operations. Without going into a lot of detail on the Sykes Company side, was one of the best hires we've ever made. We needed Tyler.
I appreciate that.
Tyler was great. Tyler was fantastic.
As a growing firm, just like many of you guys, independent pharmacies out there growing and dealing with staff and talent and trying to keep turnover down and keep good people, we obviously needed to reach out and have help in that arena as well. So we thought that was a great topic to talk about, because I know that is definitely with independent pharmacy these days, keeping and retaining good people it can be difficult. So welcome, Tyler, because I know you have a lot of good insight on some of these things. You've definitely helped us.
Yeah. Thank you, Bonnie. And yeah, some of these items that I kind of was going to bring today to talk about, especially when it comes to retaining talent and finding good talent is it's complicated because it changes all the time, and especially depending on what industry you're in, as well. Especially when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry and everything that's changing all the time. Especially with the generations of people that you have that are coming up, learning and wanting to be a part of it. It's so dynamic, and you really have to make sure, as a company, that you're clearly defining whatever role you're looking for, that you clearly define it in its responsibilities and how it fits within your company, but also fits in the parameters of certain, governing bodies. And you want to make sure that you look for candidates that have that pharmaceutical knowledge, but also have soft skills like communication, or they're able to adapt in different environments, especially depending on what type of pharmacy you are. So those are, things that you really do have to look at when you're trying to, hire new talent. It's not just trying to find those people who have those hard set skills that you're looking for. Somebody who went to pharmacy school or did that type of training, it's nice that they have those, but there's other things you have to look for as well. You also have to make sure that they fit the culture that you've set for your company too. And you got to make sure that they fit within the values and the mission that you have, because that also can help them be a part of the team and the environment that you've already created. Because if you throw somebody in that doesn't match any of that, all those skills and that education and knowledge they have can kind of be sidelined if they don't fit those things as well.
And that's a time waster and a financially, a money waster too, right, Tyler? When especially if you know up front that they may not fit, they could be the smartest person, in the world, but if they don't fit and you spend months, 6 months, even a year sometimes trying to make it work, and then they eventually leave, that can be very expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive hiring someone in. I mean, you also got to take for the account of the time that you're taking to try to find these people. Right. That's a lot of time. And what I try to do is I try to foster as many relationships as I can before I fully commit to putting somebody into an interview. Just because I don't want to rush into anything, and I want to make sure whoever I find, like for example with Sykes Company, that they will fit into our culture, or I think that they would do very well and communicate very well with the team. And that takes a lot of time to do that. I really do have to create almost a friendship relationship with these people before I throw them into that arena.
So he throws them into the fire with the actual
fire
interviewers.
pit. Yeah.
I do have to stop really quick and tell the best Tyler story ever. And I don't think you're going to mind me telling this.
Okay.
So when we hired Tyler, hire him, and we do all the normal things, I don't think we have to go into all of the nitty gritty of, obviously, background checks and things are important. People know this. I certainly hope you know this, especially in a pharmacy situation, I would hope. But anyway, we pull Tyler's background check. Or Scotty does, or somebody does one day. Not worried about it at all. He's a great guy. You can kind of tell. So Scotty calls me. He's like, "You're not going to believe this." Like, he was panicked. And I was like, "What?" He was like, 2 things popped up on, Tyler's name popped with the background check. Like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, we just couldn't believe it. There was like a 10-minute span where we were like, this guy's got stuff in all these random states. But just so everybody knows, we ended up finding Tyler and Davis are kind of a very common names. It was not the Tyler Davis.
Not the right Tyler Davis.
It's not the right Tyler Davis. We eventually figured it out, but we were like...
That's why there's a couple of lessons to learn here. Number one, Tyler was just fantastic. So we knew, like, hey, this is our man. And so we hired him before the background check. So maybe don't do that. Because...
Probably not the best. Tyler wouldn't have done that, but this is why... Okay.
And then B... Now I got sidetracked. But
B would probably be, you don't need to be doing this yourself.
Yeah, that was exactly it. Yeah, you took it right. That was it.
Yeah.
Like, we're accountants, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I'd never reviewed my own background. And then, because when you guys called, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so when I went and looked, and I kind of walked Megan through, I was like, so this is what you do to who these people are. I was like, I've never lived in these states, and I've never done these things.
There was one of the states you said you'd never even you stepped foot in
I've
there.
never,
You never
even
even
like
been there.
Arkansas. I was like, I've never been to Arkansas before. So that was interesting. Yeah, you probably should always make sure that stuff is done before you hire the person.
Yeah, we should. We should.
Granted,
Which
That's
is why
why
we
I'm
were
not
hiring you.
people operations guy.
That
Yeah.
was why we hired you. We were showing you how badly we needed you, and we did not do well on that. But we got it all sorted out. But that is a good.
We got
that was
lucky.
my favorite story.
We got lucky.
It was a very unique situation. I mean, because you did have people in place doing these things that had never done them before. And, you just needed help getting through that. And, luckily, I came along and didn't have any issues with that and was able to help. And, that is, really important for people to understand is, there are people out there who have experience and knowledge on those things that can help mitigate any craziness like that. Because I've had a bunch of places that do try to do all that stuff after the fact and they get burned.
Yep.
Either because they didn't understand it, they just forgot to do it, nobody was responsible for it. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure you have that stuff in place beforehand.
So Tyler, let me, pharmacy owners out there listening in, they may have 12 staff members. They need another tech or somebody. What's like the top 3 things they need to be doing before they go out and hire someone? So it's obviously a clear job description, listen to job responsibilities and so forth, a background check, which we should have done before we met Tyler, but we got lucky. What else, Tyler, should be done before hiring a staff member?
Yeah, so those are definitely some great items. And I would also put references in there, especially if they are a seasoned person, reaching out to whoever their professional references may be. And even if you're hiring someone right out of school, try to get references from, the colleges that they attended, or different peers, or even like professors and stuff. I think that's really important too, because that can give you some personal depth into that person as well. So, I mean, I definitely think references, your background check are 2 important items. And also, of course, you want to make sure that you have hard copies of their education, of their credentials, especially in the pharmacy world. You want to make sure that they're board certified if that's something you require. So, some people will put that they are on a resume, but they may not have passed their exam yet or done their CPEs or anything of that nature. So you want to make sure that all that stuff is verified as well. So that's really important because in my past life, I worked in healthcare and we would see that a lot. On the resume, it said they had all that stuff, but they just forgot to do their continuing education, so it's expired right now.
Right.
Then it's like, oh, well, I had it. I just got to do this. Well, you can't start your job before you get this stuff taken care of. So, I mean, those are some important things as well.
Yeah.
And definitely making sure that the job description is defined, because if that's stuff you require, you want to make sure that's up there. So if you require like just say we'll use North Carolina for instance, pharmacy technician license through the Board of Pharmacy, you want to make sure that's listed on your job description so that if they're applying for the job, they're aware that that's something they need. A lot of places may think that it's just assumed, but that's not always the case because there are some places that do not require that, especially for the job duties that they have. So that's something.
How important is that job description? I've heard of people in other situations mention, they get into this job and then they'll say things like, well, that wasn't in my job description when I was hired. Like, how can someone really hold you to that as an employer?
They can. It can be very nitpicky. That's why it's really important that you basically review your job descriptions annually to make sure that they are up to date.
Gotcha.
A lot of companies do put that line in there, other duties as assigned. And that is kind of like a catch-all. I don't necessarily like that line. That's just me, though. But a lot of companies will put all these other duties in that line and just say, take it. But, if you are going to start adding stuff to their job, that's not necessarily what it was when they first looked at that job description. Instead of just putting that catch-all, just add it to that. Or just reword your job description to include those items that you're adding to it. And because you never wanted to start giving tasks to your team members that they never like reviewed something down on paper. And I like to have people sign off on their job description so that they can acknowledge that this is the work that they're doing. And I think that's something
I think
important.
that's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
So Tyler, where do you find talent? Where do you find great talent? What's the
Yeah.
best way to do that? I mean, there's a lot of folks looking for qualified help in the pharmacy industry, qualified techs, and what's the best way to go about that?
Yeah. So luckily, in the age that we live in, the internet is a wonderful place. That's, one of the best places to start. There's so many different websites and social media that you can use to try to obtain talent. I mean, you have your generic ones like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, um, LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I think, is a really great tool to use because you can have actual conversations with people, whether you're directly messaging them or in the comments, or you can like add yourself to groups within LinkedIn and have conversations with communities who you can see if people are looking for positions. You can bounce ideas and things off certain people. I do a lot of like sourcing and just like connection work where we may not be hiring for a position right now, but I'm still out there talking to people and making connections. So that way down the road, if we are looking for something and I've talked to somebody that has that experience or who I think would do a great job, I already have that relationship set up with
Right.
them and I can reconnect with them.
I think that's a really good point because we've had it. We talk about a lady that works with us that literally walked off the elevator, and this was years ago, into our lobby that was just kind of like, hey, I was just checking to see if you're hiring. And she ended up, we weren't hiring at that moment, but she was just kind of a unicorn. And she was local. And it was like one of those things where you're not going to hire her because that doesn't happen very often. So I think what I'm hearing you say is always kind of you want people to continue to send in information, send in their resumes. You may find somebody that pops through that is just somebody that is so great that you can't. Maybe you want to just do what you can to somehow have
Right.
them work out.
Yeah.
So you don't want to shut the door to those possibilities.
Yeah. And a lot of the hires that we've had in the last year have come from me, either them reaching out to me directly or vice versa, or even like going to school events at different colleges and meeting people there and obtaining their resume and their contact information. That's another great strategy too, especially for people in the pharmaceutical realm. Like even going to your community colleges of people who are about to graduate and going to those job fairs and being there in front of them and have somebody to talk to you, because college students are so excited to like start their adult career and their adult
Right.
life that they're excited to talk to people and have that face-to-face conversation, where some generations are fine with just like the direct message on LinkedIn or something like
Right.
that. But as younger generations come into the working force, they really do like to be like in your face having that in-person conversation. So that's another thing that I think is awesome, is going to these schools, talking to students, seeing, not just like trying to advertise yourself so much, but just also showing them how you care about them as a person, because that also will show them that you foster that in your work environment.
The culture
I,
that you
I like
have.
to
Yeah.
tell people, we go to these to one, we like to advertise ourselves that we're available, but at the same time, you want them to remember you for something positive as well. And it's fostering that connection with them, having that genuine conversation, not just about your company, but about them and what they want to do with their life and their, professional career.
Another thing that Tyler has done for us, Scotty, is really started this pipeline of kind of internships with with gosh, how many interns do we have right now? 3 or 4 this summer, maybe.
We have two, and we just had
We had
our
one
spring one start full time.
start full time. And so that's something that we have talked for years about. We knew we needed to do it. You really have to put the time and the energy to kind of plant a seed there, and it's going to take time to grow. But the results of it, I think, have been fantastic. Like you said, we just hired one of our interns full time, but even in the pharmacy world, I think that's huge. I know we have a lot of pharmacists that do some of that, maybe on the level of pharmacist. I know some, while they're off in the summers, go and do internship roles in pharmacies. I think those are great if you can have people come in to do that. Obviously, they're getting their experience that they need, but it's also an opportunity for you to showcase what you have to offer. We have so many, when I do these ownership workshops, people that are at the workshops because they are purchased at a store, and it's usually a store that they have been working in. Some are not even pharmacists. They just work there. They'll say, I worked there when I was in high school, and I worked there kind of as a store manager for the last 5 years, 10 years, and they want to buy the store. And so I think you have to look at it beyond even maybe just the pharmacist role. You look at your techs, you look at any of these people that have been with you and that you can bring in maybe on an internship level type of a setting. But that's something I know we're really excited about that's worked out. I guess we're in about year 2 now, but we're already starting to see some of those things.
Right.
Yeah, I love it. I love the internship that we have here that Tyler's helped put together. But Tyler, so once you find the staff and you bring them on board, following the basic procedures there, how do you what's the best way to keep and retain that talent and help that talent grow and continue to thrive in the work environment?
Yeah. So one thing that you just want to make sure that you're doing to keep that retention high is, one, you don't want to just have that person think you forgot about them once they're hired and they're just doing their job. But you definitely want to check in with them. You want to reward your team members for any achievements that they have, whether it be individuals or as a team, as a whole. And you want to make sure that you're helping them set goals, not just for the team or the department, but individually as well. And you want to make sure that they have an understanding that you want to be there to help them achieve those goals. Now, I know some people may think, some people may not want to set goals for themselves at all, which is totally fine, and that's okay. But, you still want to be there to show them that you're going to be there to help them no matter what and try to push them into being successful and making those achievements that are set. And just having conversations with your staff. I hear a lot that from, whether it be friends or other colleagues, that they were hired into a role and then they never hear from their manager, or they talk to maybe 1 or 2 colleagues and that's it. And they just get work assigned in their email box and that's all. Some companies thrive in that environment and they hire staff who also do that. But, in my mind, I just feel like, having simple conversations, it doesn't have to be daily, but at least once a week, just checking in with your team members, making sure they have the tools they need to do their job well and that they're being successful in doing that, and that they are recognized for whatever achievements they do. And it doesn't have to be in a public setting as well. It could be just one-on-one with you and that team member. Right. You don't have to make a huge spectacle about it, as long as that person knows that they're being noticed for whatever that they're achieving. And also, and not saying you have to put so much money into rewarding your staff. I mean, it could be as simple as a gift card, a note, a thank you. You can take them out to lunch, dinner, send them gifts, things if you want to of that nature. But you also have to make sure that those individuals, because everybody's different, is comfortable with those certain items.
Right.
Now we have some team members who may not like a gift, but a simple note that is just well thought out and thorough of thanking them for what they're doing is something they prefer way more.
Yep.
So it's really getting to know your team members on an individual level to have that understanding. And for instance, here at Sykes Company, I'm that person that gets that gets to know these people to that point to where I can share that information. And I know some pharmacists or store owners in this work may not have time to do that because they have other things going on. And if they want to hire someone to come in as like an office manager or an administrator that can do those things, that's totally acceptable too, because it can help them. I'm not saying it has to be a full-fledged HR person, because sometimes that's not necessary to reach a certain point. And they usually say about 50 employees plus is when HR is needed, just because of certain regulations and things that's required at that size point. But just someone who can come in and kind of make sure that they have an understanding of how people are doing, not just managing them, being there for them as well. So that can be also an important role alongside, your day-to-day staff, is someone coming in and having those understandings of what the people need, who they are, and, just someone who they can come and talk to when they need those things and want to express it. Kind of like a neutral ground, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
So switching gears just a tad, AI. Let's talk about AI.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a big topic in the world today. What kind of things are you starting to see that are different, or things that kind of this AI is affecting the hiring process, retention, and that sort of thing?
AI is insane. So AI creating resumes, cover letters. You can tell when people aren't very well versed in AI and they have AI write something for them.
AI sending emails.
Yep, AI sending emails, responding to emails, AI even responding to text messages and stuff. Or,
Some of it can be great though.
yeah,
Helpful. It's a tool.
yeah. I'm
But I
all for AI. I think it's great as long as you know how to use it.
I have to say, Tyler, another quick example of story. I was asked, you would have died, just completely died. I was asked to go to the high school a couple weeks ago to sit with these kids and do like mock interviews. And so they would come in and they would hand me their resume. I would spend a few minutes looking at it, and then I would ask them, some interview questions just to give them practice. So twice I got the resume, was looking at it, and it had like, I don't know what you want to call it. Like it had their name, everything was fine. And then it got down to like work experience, and they were like auto generated things that they hadn't filled in. They were like fillable sections that it was like inner work experience here, inner work experience here. They hadn't even filled it in. I mean, they obviously didn't read it or look at it after they printed it. So my feedback was, I try to be nice, but it's terrible. So please at least use it as a tool.
Yeah.
Is what maybe I
it's
would
important. Like you have to learn how to use it properly.
say. Yeah.
And not saying, you don't want to go and just use AI and try to hide the fact that you're using it. You should be open about using it. But definitely, there's so many courses and things online you can learn how to prompt AI properly to make it not feel as robotic, or, to give it more like a human taste, or even like going back and editing some of the stuff AI has given you.
Right.
I mean,
Turn
you
it
don't want
down.
to just take what it spits out at you and run with it. You do want to give it a little bit of your own personal taste too. But in the world of like recruiting, there's so many tools they've created for AI, like that use AI now. I mean, there are different softwares and systems that have been done to where if a candidate sends in their resume, the AI will look at the resume for you and give you like a determination if they're qualified enough for that position, or if they're a good candidate to speak with.
Nice.
There's so many different things now that will go and review these for you. Actually, I have a couple that I looked at. So
It's like an assistant.
Yeah, it definitely helps with efficiency.
Yeah,
Especially if you have a lot of people applying or something like that. You can kind of...
There's two systems that I looked at that will kind of do this for you. One's called Eightfold, and the other one's called Hire View, VUE. And they literally will scan the resumes and give you like compatibility like notes on, depending on your job description, if they would suit that. And I think that is insane. I think that would be awesome.
That's awesome.
Especially if you don't have time to go through resumes. And I think the last position that we posted, I had almost 300 people apply for it.
That's crazy.
And having something to where you could just put all the resumes in and then it spits out maybe a group of people that would work best depending on your job description, I think is amazing. It'd be at least interesting to see how close it gets. Even if you're testing it with old like positions that you had posted and putting in all those applicants and see if the person that you chose at the end spits out for what it comes out with. I think, stuff like that would be awesome. And there's plenty more other platforms that do it, and something you may even be using today might have a AI integration that you don't even know about. So,
or if it doesn't, it may in the next week or two as updates hit.
right,
Yeah.
A lot
definitely.
of good information. Tyler, to wrap it up, when we're talking about the independent pharmacy, what kind of things would you just say takeaways on an HR sort of level for our independent pharmacies as far as just, key points, bottom line, things to look for?
Yeah, I would say just really make sure that you're listening to the team members you have and use whatever feedback that you get from them to hire and look for those candidates in the future. And make sure that your mission, your values, whatever purpose your is very apparent and that your team has an understanding of that and that whatever task or duties that you have your team doing is very focused and that they have a really good understanding of that as well. And don't be afraid to talk to your team members. It's okay to have conversations with them, and you can keep it professional with light personal touches. It doesn't have to be always very deep or in depth, and you don't have to sit there and be friends with your team. You can be professional and still have those moments that seem like friendship without having it being too personal or deep or emotional. Just talking to them and getting to know them on a surface level can go really great lengths to letting that person know that you care about them.
Right.
So I think that was one of the biggest things is just having those relationships with your team members, letting them know that you do actually care about what they're doing there and who they are as a person.
So,
That goes a long way.
yeah, my bottom line from what we've discussed, taken from Tyler earlier, is to, I think it's important because the hiring process and retention process is very expensive, and training. So, if you kind of have a gut feel in the beginning that this person, they may be great, but that they're, not a match for your firm, your mission, your values, that they may not kind of sync well with the team. It may be a hard thing to do, especially in, with pharmacy right now when you are struggling to keep good people and needing people. They just may not be the fit. You might just have to pass them by.
And hey, sometimes mistakes are made and misjudgments happen, and that's okay because you learn from that stuff. So
Absolutely. Scotty, do you have a parting word?
My parting word, my bottom line is, I think it kind of comes down to, the relationships, build those meaningful relationships. And when you do that, you build trust. And when you do that, you get the feedback and you get the sense that, you really do care and you want the best for that individual. And, that helps to build a rock solid team. And as we were talking about on our previous podcast, Bonnie, you got to have a rock solid team. We were talking about the foundations of just business, solid team, the financials. And I feel, and it's my opinion that building sound relationships and meaningful relationships is a key to that.
Yeah, being able to delegate, trust other people too, which is something I struggle with, is the delegation piece, but I've gotten better over the years for sure. I think we both have, Scotty. But trusting other people to take some of it, everybody, they got you.
It's hard with us control freaks. We want to control everything.
Yeah, Tyler, on a previous podcast, we were talking about a lot of, our guest was talking about a lot of pharmacists are type A personalities. And so it's very hard for them. Same kind of situation that exactly how we are as accountants, CPAs. So, yeah, just to know that people, to be able to trust people, train them, and know that they're going to do a good job and trust them to do so. So
Yep.
Yeah, once you have that trust and you're able to delegate efficiently, it's so freeing.
yes,
Yeah.
I will agree. I actually
It
have
really
one more
is.
bottom line because I
What's
got to
that?
always have the last word. I would also like to end with the fact that bottom line is I'm so glad we hired Tyler.
Yes. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for that background check was not
It's
right.
actually not right. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I had to call Tyler. You know, Megan came to me and was like, I think we have a problem. I was like, what? So we had to call Tyler right away. And Tyler's like, well, that's odd because I've never been to that state. So
Yeah.
anyway.
You know, as a growing firm, just like with the pharmacies, you know, like we mentioned, you start to hit that 35, 40 employee mark. We were trying to handle a lot of this stuff on our own, and you get to a point, you've just got to stay in your lane, handle the things
Yep,
that you know
you
how to
do.
handle. Same in pharmacy. So you get let someone handle that knows what they're doing. So
And
I'm glad
Tyler,
we-
once you cross the 50-person mark, you open up a whole another set of doors that you gotta handle. So
Oh, yeah.
maybe on a future podcast we can maybe dive into that for those larger
Oh, yeah.
pharmacy owners out
And that
there.
also goes without getting into a whole lot of detail. Just if you're curious, that doesn't mean per entity necessarily. If you got common ownership, it's a whole nother thing. We may
That's
need
right.
to do another podcast
Yeah,
on
I'd
that.
love to be a part of that. Yeah, because Sykes Company just hit that threshold not too long ago. So it is a different world of stuff you have to make sure that you're taking care of.
Yep. Just another thing for everybody to add to the
Another-
list.
Another thing, another hat to wear for the pharmacy owners out there. But thank you all for listening in. Thank you, Tyler, as always, for all you
Yeah.
do for our team. And we appreciate you. And we'll see all you listeners out there on another episode of the Bottom Line Pharmacy Podcast.